So one thing that that always comes up when you're when you're looking at authenticity, most often when you look at leaders, they believe that when they present themselves as being a little vulnerable, right? Uh, they just feel that maybe they lose control. But do you believe that when there is a certain sense of vulnerability in the body language, does it build trust and authenticity?
Okay, so I think personally that it depends a little on the situation. See, body language is always highly context specific. So
Hmm.
while we can understand, what is the meaning of a certain body expression, facial gesture, hand gesture, whatever it be, but how do you decipher that in a particular situation? That depends on what that situation is, right? So you have to be able to understand the context to get the right sense of this. That's what I
Hmm.
would say to this question.
Okay, okay. So to that extent, what is the challenge of a bias or a cognitive bias of the body language that you perceive, right? Because typically I think a lot of miscommunication or misinterpretation, if I were to call, is my cognitive bias on how I perceive what the person is saying. So does cognitive bias create a huge amount of misrepresentation on what I'm communicating? And is that something that, if I were a receiver of a message, what are the kind of filters I should put? Because typically that's really where I see there is a breakdown, right? Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, so biases, I mean, you can talk about biases and that entire conversation would go on and on. That's the number of biases we have. And that is why staying objective really helps, right?
Okay.
Uh, you try and understand the person in front of you through what you are reading through their body language, because body language is something that is absolute honest.
Hmm.
There are a lot of moments when you want to say something but the body language is already told, so you can tell the other person, I already understood what you're saying, because it's very authentic. A lot of them are cognitive, a lot of them are also just observation biases. So getting rid of them, it takes a lot of effort, but ultimately
Hmm.
looking at what's right in front of you and trying to put it
Hmm.
into the right perspective, that is what helps. So I'll give you one example. For example, if I know your baseline, that's what we call baseline, meaning how do you usually behave, how do you usually communicate. So I might have some idea about it, that if you like something, usually you nod back, or you are very transparent in communicating that. I'm giving an example that this is what I like, this is what I'm trying to process, this is what I don't like. So I need to understand and put today's conversation as a what should I say, map it to your usual self. That helps me to understand you a little more better. And there I am using a lot of cognitive processing, but it's in the right manner because there is no bias
Hmm.
that is involved, right? But we should make it a little more simpler for the listeners. The idea being, whatever you see in front of you, try and put it in the right framework. If you feel that you're not able to understand what's coming in from the other side, you can probably ask a few questions. But the problem there is, a lot of times we don't know that I am coming across as somebody who's closed, or I am coming across as somebody who's not agreeing. So if you ask, are you not agreeing, nobody will say yes or no. You need to ask questions to understand whether the person is agreeing or not. So I might ask, if I see that you're not agreeing with me, I will not ask you, are you
Hmm.
agreeing with me or not. I might ask that, did this point make sense to you, would you like to add something to what I just shared.
Hmm.
The idea being not to point out what you're seeing in terms of body language, but asking the relevant questions to get it correct. So that is something that I really feel works when it comes to removing biases both ways. Because like as a speaker I have biases, even the listener has a lot of biases, right? So